So I like to start presentations with this slide. The first question I would like to ask, as what Dario was saying, it has to do with what Dario was saying, is what do you see here? What is it that you see? A teacher in the UK showed this product to students and asked, what do you see? It's a laptop that you print while you write and you don't have to plug it in. That was one of the answers. And this speaks about how we conceive of things. We conceive them from our own perspectives, and we need to have a more refined look to understand things, because things are changing rapidly today. When we ask ourselves, what is this? We would say a Google phone, a smartphone, or whatever, but it is the most popular camera on the internet. And when we see a picture of a camera and we ask, what is it that you see? It is the most popular video camera at the time. If we saw someone taking or holding this object, we believed that someone was going to take a photo, but now they are making videos. And the same thing happens when we look at the Xbox. What is this? Are people playing games? This is the object that allows us to see Netflix on TV. So 3 years ago, when changing TV set for a smart TV was very expensive, it was less expensive to buy an Xbox, to be able to access Netflix. So this makes us think several times before we make any assumptions. So does this mean that people are playing more games? No. People are looking for different ways for consuming the products. The book that Damian mentioned is Everything We Touch, and it will be released in November. Publishing house Penguin. And I started analyzing objects, and it was born out of my love for understanding objects. And I will show you a preview at the end, or a trailer. The book tells the stories of people around the world, showing the things that those people touch on a given day. This is a girl in China. She is an artist, and she also does graphic art. If we were able to see it with higher quality, we would see all the objects that she has touched from the time she got up until she went to bed. So here you have a mixer. This person is not baking. She is mixing paint. So I like it when people find new uses for objects. This is a film director in Los Angeles, and it is very interesting to see the colors. You see a wide variety in the use of colors. This is a girl in Tokyo, and all the things she touches from when she gets up until she goes to bed. Fortunately, she does not use the phone as the first thing in the morning. This is a cowboy in Arizona, and this is from Oscar. He will be a speaker tomorrow. I did this in Melbourne. So these are all the things that Oscar touches when he gets up. And he does virtual reality. So these are all the things that he requires to do his art. This is Sebastian Molchaski from Efecto Cerebro, and this is everything he touched when he was working on the last episode of Omar's series. And these are all the things that are required to do his work. This is a geisha man in Tokyo. I'm not going to talk about the different stories. This is a chef in Morocco, and at the end of the day, she has a computer. And when we see a person with a computer, we ask ourselves, what is she or he doing? It is not obvious what this person is doing. So there are many spaces or gaps between interpretation and semantics of the object does and what the person is actually doing with the object. And here I have a picture of my mother. Why did I choose my mother's picture? Because she is the only person I photographed that has a radio. In fact, she has two radios. One in the bedroom and the other one in the kitchen. And when she gets up, she continues listening to the radio in the two rooms. Then I also photographed music, because we never see music in anyone's life. It's not something that we touch and we can use anymore. What else does she have? She has something that only 1/3 of the people that I photographed have, which is a remote control. They are an endangered species. My mother loves remote controls, and so these are the things that indicate how everything is changing dynamically, and the objects that were everyday objects in our lives, now they are falling out. Now, I have been working for 15 years in studying consumption habits, particularly based on product design. And for 15 years, I have been devoted to ethnographic design. Every time I have to address a problem or the creation of a product or service or content, I need to understand the user and the situations of the users and where the product will, and in what situations the product will work or operate, the different situations. This work has evolved over the years. I started it 50 years ago. It has grown a lot based on what we do, and it has also shifted into something different. Doing this kind of work was something secret, strategic, nobody dare talk about, but customers or clients have been wanting to talk about this. And based on the work I have done with Nokia, we have been doing communication videos. For instance, I did different projects. I was introduced to the world of content and entertainment because I designed many remote controls, DVD players, and VHS devices. So the introduction was given by Damian. I am an industrial designer from UBA. I have a master's in arts in design from Brunel University, UK. I worked at Seymour Powell as a director of future scenarios, trends, and research. Every time we design a product, I am in charge of understanding the needs for that product, redefining it, and writing a brief of how the product should be made. And 3 years ago, I started my own company, TheOverworld, to try to free myself up from the products. The product used to be everything in the past, but now there are different things, applications and services. So if I got detached from industrial design, I would get to some other dimensions. That was my thinking. We also talked about the intersection between design and transmedia, the interpretation of the audiences as users. As Darío and as Adam was saying about changing things, and we talk about transmedia, new formats, we have to think about this intersection. What has changed and what has made things different? What has changed between contents, audience, and medium or platform? When we do it from the point of view of design thinking, the things that we are looking at is the intersection, the most important portion. So when we design the experience, we have to think about why such and such an audience wants to communicate with that content, where, who, why, and when. And we have to design all the points of intersection where that happens. And why is it so important? Because in the past, this was what it was like. We got a top-down approach that was a linear approach where we have the different steps cascading down. But now the audience modifies the relationship with the content and the media. So what we have to think beyond transmedia is the experience, the entire experience. So revisiting where we come from, it is interesting to go some steps backward and understand how we got here in the first place. As I was saying before, in 2004, I did some project for Samsung for audiovisual products in the home. And it was so obvious because we had all the products. We had relaxation sofas, and we sat down to watch TV. And then we had the more active products that had to do with communication and productivity, which were computers, and they were clearly defined environments. And the other clear-cut concept was that every medium had its content. TV had a certain format, a DVD player and VHS had a different format, etc. And on the other hand, we had the computer, the keyboard, and things were clearly defined. There were clear boundaries, and we understood what everything was about. Now, those borders are blurred today, but we continue with that mindset. We continue with that structure. So it is interesting to see how kids react, because they get a tablet, a phone, and a laptop, and they look for YouTube or Netflix. They don't have those prejudices. They don't think that a given room in their house is for a given thing. So when did that turning point occur? What was it? What was the watershed that revolutionized everything? When the internet came to TV, and when TV came to laptops, smartphones, and tablets. So this tipped the scale for the good and for the bad. So that evolution has shown that it shows that we have not reached that place. We want to do things to interact with TV with a remote control, which is impossible to manage because the program we want to find is terrible, and then we lie on the bed with a keyboard that we don't even know when we want to watch something on the laptop. So we still have to work on it. This picture is interesting. In a project that I did with Starbucks, I surveyed many Starbucks stores on the western coast of the US. So regardless of the project, the interesting thing is that if you are designing products and contents, it's an incredible place for you to go to a Starbucks, because people get connected with content, they work, they do everything at the same time. This young person was sitting there. I interviewed him. Then I saw him sitting in the sofa with a computer and watching a YouTube video. I asked him, why did you move from the table to the sofa? Because I was working. And now to take a break, to consume content, I sit in the armchair so that I relax. So it's interesting, because when we do not have that boundary between the device, the space, the clear-cut boundaries, we find some other ways to do it. So these are things that are in our nature. He's doing the same thing he was doing before, but he goes from the productive space to the relaxation space to watch a video from YouTube in order to get some relax, and then go back to work and change places again. So we can tell stories through different platforms. When we talk about transmedia, the part of the term that worries me is when we think about when we go across platforms, because this is a concept that we have been bringing from other environments. All these things, TV, games, email, computers, everything is in the phone right now. So that enthusiasm from hopping from one platform to the other, it's like a 1 millimeter gap that we have from one to the other. So the boundaries will get increasingly blurred, and that enthusiasm or excitement will disappear or vanish in a way. So what Damian was saying this morning, what Adam presented, and what Darío said, having technology as part of our lives from the point of view of contents, instead of thinking how we can go from one platform to the next, we could think how we go from reality to fiction. And this is a key question we should be thinking about. How we go as an audience or as a user, how do we walk and find that content that we're interested in, and how we go into the fiction, and how do you get there share and what you get from there, what you can take away from it. So the experience and the story that you take away and you share later is as important as accessing. So I believe that, as an example, we can think about the totem of the Inception movie. Leonardo DiCaprio has this object that tells him whether he's in the reality or in a dream. So this helps us reflect upon how we have made technology part of our everyday life. So platform doesn't mean something that we can hop from one to the next. It's something that helps us go from reality to fiction. It helps us engage, interact, communicate, and share the stories that we have just experienced. It is also a tool. Now, talking about content, as I said, I told you that my mother was the only person that had music in her everyday routine. The content always meant identity and property. We always had our movies, our books, our music, and that was content. That was what content was about. We were able to borrow from other people content and to lend content to other people. Then we moved from that position, and iTunes gave us the convenience of having digital music. Then we got Spotify. Spotify gives us access not only to the music that we had and shared or bought, it gave us access to all music. So how about when you get access to everything and the person next to you also has access to everything? What is your identity now? If you like everything and the person that is sitting next to you can also like everything, where does the identity of each one lie? So we start playing things in Spotify, so I can curate the folders of music. This is the music that I hear, that I listen to on Tuesdays, for instance, or when I run. So we go back to identity, we go back to using content for specific uses. The difference is that this has an owner and this doesn't have an owner. So as it is not my own, I have to reinterpret it. I have to apply my own filter and my own meaning. I added this to think about an example of something that Spotify did at a festival, at the Coachella festival. They gave everyone who was coming in the bracelet for the festival, but they also had an RFID code, and the the songs that were played were also stored in the Spotify folder. So users could develop, or visitors could develop, their own folders based on their Spotify experience. So the identity of people was capitalized, and it's like closing the full circle. This is something that I included as an example. The same thing happened with the photo albums. We go now to the convenience. When we have public photos, we started doing curatorship in Instagram, and we don't have 90,000 photos anymore, but we select carefully our photos and we apply filters, etc. So if I have a St. Paul's Cathedral photo, I'm not going to post just any photo, but I will only post the photo that has some special effect on it. Then we have some other people, like this artist, Penelope Umbrico, who reminds us of the ecology of contents and how we abuse digital things. She found 504,000 photos of sunset on Flickr. So she wrote sunset, and she found 591,000 photos of the same thing. So this reminds us of what is happening with digital content and how we abuse that content, because just anything could access. And we are not only thinking about it from the point of view of digital. This is another artist, Corinne Dinette. I love what she did. I call it content ecology. It is an impressionist photo of all the photos she found in Google of the Eiffel Tower, and another one for the Resurrection Church in St. Petersburg. This reminds us of how we duplicate content and how we are posting content, repetitive content. And this takes us back to the fact that as users, we are always applying our framework, our composition, because everything remains with everyone or belongs to everyone. So how we see it, the filter that we apply is what makes it most important. So we are disassembling and reassembling reality, copying and pasting. Now, we want to be part, we want to appropriate in an art exhibit. You want to see your photo reflected in art, how you see yourself reflected in art. Even though I'm giving you examples from music, photography, and art, this will reach, in a way, media content as well. I'll give you an example. This is a photo of a boy, of the heartbeats while he watched a Game of Thrones episode. So these are his heartbeats, frame by frame. So this is not just content alone. Everyone can watch Game of Thrones, everybody loves it, but this is his heartbeats. So these are the stories we created based on that interaction. Now, as an audience, the experiences are more intense. We do not have this fixed working schedule from 9 to 5, and then we have entertainment and relaxation after 5, and then during our entertainment time or free time, we saw things in a different way. Now, everything is mixed up. So people can take a break while they are working, and they can watch a video, a micro-series on YouTube or on the Internet. So they are not desperate for getting home and watching a TV program, for instance. So it's a way of appropriating. It's watching the movie. It's not only watching the movie, the Budapest Hotel, but it's also characterizing or dressing in the costumes. We also saw a video of Abramovich that was called 512 Hours. The queue to see Marina in the gallery or in the exhibit room was impressive. You couldn't take anything from your exhibit, or not even pictures, and you had to leave your smartphone outside. So what did people do to say they were there? They started posting the pictures of the stamps that they got on their hands when they were queuing. So that is a way they found to share the fact that they were there. It's a value of your presence in that activity. Or the audience has an audience. We go to theatrical performances where you are an audience, but you are also an actor and you participate. So there is an audience that is watching the audience. And this example was included. This is not, the product is not what is interesting here, but have you been to a silent disco? The silent disco, it's not a disco. You go dancing. You go dancing, there are 3 DJs, and each of them has their own music. You have the blue, the red, and the green DJ. And when you get there, you hear nothing. Everything is in silence. So you get your headsets and you tune into the channel that you wish to listen to. For instance, when you are listening to the blue DJ, your headphones are blue. And when you dance, you will be dancing or moving in the same way as other people that are listening to the same DJ. This was in fashion 2 years ago, and I assume that the fad is gone now, but it is very interesting to see how we can go to places, and even though things are for everyone and we are all sharing the same venue, everyone wants to have their own experience, and all the layers that we are adding, that is, it's not only the experience as we see it, but also how we can live it and share it with others. For instance, we were talking about radio programs. It would be very, very interesting. I cannot take music with me. I can have a T-shirt of my favorite band, but I can't take music with me. I can be sitting on the bus, listening to the radio, and my headset would be telling me what station I am listening to, so that I can talk with someone who is listening to the same station. So if we are listening to a joke, we can laugh together with a person sitting next to me. We are not thinking in those terms yet, but when we are able to think in those terms, when we are able to think with that mindset, we will open up to many other things and beyond the tablet and the smartphone. This is something that I had. When we talk about media, we also have to think about platforms as tools. There are things that cameras can see that we don't see, we can't see. So these are ways of finding content. The phone is a very important tool to tell stories, but it should also be used to awaken stories that are waiting for us. You can participate, you can take a picture, watch the picture later on. You can enter a world through that picture. Augmented reality is something that did not work in practice as it was expected, but the idea of walking and discovering things in the place on the spot is an interesting one. And now we can see beyond what we could see in the past. And also we can see farther away and very close to where we are. We can think in the macro and in the micro perspective. We can take a story in a way today, and as we have the digital capability, I can focus on a different part of the story later on. The artistic dominant, the prevailing artistic form in the 21st century is the form where everyone sees their own image. Everyone has their own filter. If we think about Google and Facebook, what I see in these tools, the searches are different, the outcomes are different. There are no two Facebooks that are the same, even though they may have the same contents and you may be posting the same things. They are not the same. Everyone will see a different reality, and everybody believes that Facebook is my Facebook, and that is a true Facebook, but they are all different, and the same expectations will extend to all other things with which we interact. How about content? We went from acquisition to accessibility to reinterpretation. As we are not owners, we can appropriate it. We are learning to use digital content, but we are not yet optimizing their full capacity. This is an example from a Lightro photo camera. This is true digital content to me. It takes pictures. The cost is $300. It is affordable. It is in the marketplace. The digital content contains all the information, all the data, so that you can go back to the photo and change your viewpoint, which is different from what you can do with Photoshop, which is to modify. The photo has all that information. To me, this is true digital content, not the same photos that I upload of the same thing. So I start thinking about live content, content that is awake and we can modify. And here I have the example of Mad Men, Breaking Bad. What if we had much more information than what we have? We abuse digital content because digital media reproduce or play 12 DVDs online. It's the same thing. But what if I did not understand a bit and I can go backwards and learn more things about the series. These are natural things. When we think about interactive content, we are expecting too much from the other person. We are forcing the person to interact with content. The other day, I was watching an interactive documentary, a beautiful one, that out of Canada. So I asked my husband, come watch it with me. And we fought, because interactivity made me want to go with the mouse in a certain direction, and he wanted to go in a different direction. So we decided to watch it on our own. So interactive is not social, of two people sharing something or doing the same thing. It is social if you are playing with some other remote players. So we have to think about more human things, human-like, based on what we know and we like to do. I watched Breaking Bad. I loved it. I want to watch it again. The digital file is should know that I want to watch it again. So on my second visit, it could provide me with an enhanced experience. That is to say, things I was not ready to do or to see the first time, but that I can discover the second time. This would be truly digital content with these properties. I won't explain this model because the chart cannot be clearly seen, so let us skip it. Now, to close, let me show you a video of the book that I am writing. With this thing about objects, I'm thinking about how things will change. I had a conversation with a historian, Dan Krupchen. He's very well known in the UK. We were talking about the power of the pictures I'm taking to capture like a historical capsule. So there are many objects that are no longer with us. There are no calculators, no agenda books or notebooks, no torches. Many everyday objects are disappearing from our lives. So I did a tour of 6 continents with this aim to see what people touch. So let me show you a 1-minute video about this.
Anything that documents a specific moment, of an individual has an incredible value. These are documents of now, which will be intriguing for people in the future to understand how individuals conducted their daily lives.
Las fotos son reales en un espacio. Estas son todas las personas, bueno, varias de las personas que fotografié.
These are several of the people I photographed. Here you can see the photo. It is real with all the objects in a room that is 4 meters by 3 meters.
Listo, muchas gracias. Me apuré.
Thank you.